I wanted to take a moment today of your time to describe how we remain committed to reaching an agreement that ends this strike in a way that both recognizes the value of our employees and also puts in place structures that allow us to invest directly in our students long term. I realize now that long before 2017, when I became superintendent, Sac City had a history of strained relationships with our labor partners, and that many pieces of how the district managed its resources had been identified as fixes that had to be made. I've now reviewed countless reports and letters from state agencies, our county office of education, the state auditor, and others saying two main things. The first is that the district has had a history of using one-time dollars for ongoing expenses. In board meetings, we've used analogies such as repairing our cars, having unpaid bills, and other examples. The bottom line is this: our yearly expenses are more than the amount of money we get from the state to serve our students. And second, all those reports and letters have found that our health benefit structure is not sustainable because we offer very costly health benefit plans to our employees. We offer 100% health coverage to some of our employees and their entire family. And we're not looking to change that, but we also can't have health plans that cost the district almost $34,000 per year per employee. No one in the region, state, government, colleges, universities, city and county governments pay this amount of money for health benefits. When I was hired in 2017, I wish I had known about these two major challenges in Sac City Unified. I was told that our community was looking for someone who believed in equity and had proven to understand how to advance an equity agenda. A big part of advancing an equity agenda is to understand what equity means. For me, equity isn't just a word or coconut water that everyone talks about. It's much deeper and reflects an understanding that, unlike my own 4 children, my upbringing wasn't the result of privilege and opportunities that my parents had provided me. It was understanding that because of the lack of those things, I had to overcome a lot more than my peers in school, through college, through law school, and even today in my role as superintendent. The other big part of advancing an equity agenda is that you have to have the resources to invest in providing opportunities to students to help them overcome challenges that some students face that others might not. Things like exposing our students to colleges and careers, paying for their AP tests, visual and performing arts opportunities, sports programs, paying for PSAT and SAT tests, or, as we did this year, paying for all students to go to Slide Park or other science camps without having to worry about registration fees and fundraising or partnering with businesses and churches to sponsor our students. I'll come back to Slide Park in a bit. Also in 2017, when I became superintendent, I assumed that with over 70% of our students coming from low-income backgrounds, English learners, foster homeless, and receiving more money from the state because of that, that we did all of those things and a lot more. Instead, what I learned is that we spent over 90%, today that figure is 93%, of our unrestricted general funds on salary and benefits. That we had a long history of budgeting poorly, and that we relied on hope that we might get more funds from the state to negotiate contracts. And just as I was learning about all of that, we faced the threat of a strike in 2017. You remember we averted that strike, but then came within months of being taken over by the state, and then fell under fiscal oversight from the County Office of Education, which now today, still today, monitors our budget. No other district in all of Sacramento County is in the same situation. Back to Slide Park. Not long after averting a strike, my 2 sons brought home a note about Slide Park when they were in 6th grade, showing a registration fee back then of $250 per student. They also brought a form showing all of the items that we needed to buy for them to go to Slide Park. Everything from snow boots, wool socks, base layers, and other items. And I remember by the time they went to Slide Park, we had spent about $1,000 for both of them. And for me, it was a stark reminder of the mental conditioning that we've operated in Sac City and as a community, because we've come to expect that if you wanted to go to Slide Park, you paid for it. If you wanted to play elementary sports, you paid a third-party organization. You could join symphonies, youth symphonies, but you had to pay for that as well. You could play flag football, pay for it, but you had to go to West Sacramento. If you wanted to run cross-country in middle school, you had to attend a couple of schools where parents kindly come together and they help each other with carpooling, because we don't offer bus or van transportation to all of our students for this kind of activity. And I began to see with my own eyes as a parent when I took my own children to cross-country competitions and saw the inequity of only having some of our Sac City schools represented. And yet we know that these types of activities are life-changing. And in the case of Slide Park, it's a rite of passage even. But they've only been largely available to students and parents like me with means who have accepted that this is how things work in Sac City. A very, very deep, painful memory that I have as superintendent goes back to when we started co-ed flag football for elementary students. I went to see a game at one of our schools, and a parent approached me and thanked me for starting flag football because it saved them a trip to West Sacramento where his son played in a league. Then I went to see a flag football game at another school located in South Sacramento. And there, another parent also approached me and thanked me, but this time with tears, because she told me that her 4th grade child had never played in organized sports because of registration and uniform costs. What we've tried to do is equity, and that is an example of equity at work. This is the kind of work that I thought we could accomplish in Sac City Unified. And sadly and ironically, had it not been for a worldwide pandemic that shuttered our schools for almost 2 years, which then in turn saved millions of dollars because our bills and other expenses were reduced, and then the infusion of one-time COVID relief dollars, our reserves would not have grown the way they did. But those resources have come from one-time funds that have to be used by 2024. Because we now have hired staff with expertise in changing how we do things and doing them in ways that other high-performing districts do, we've put steps in place to ensure that we no longer continue using one-time funds for ongoing expenditures, and that we look long past today in how we make decisions about our budget. I was reminded the other day, and as I understand, I've been the longest serving superintendent since 2003, since Superintendent Sweeney. And time will tell how long I'm here. And I know, and I've gotten a lot of advice, that it would be easy for me to not worry about the long-term fiscal health of our district. But that's not who I am. Despite my commitment to look well into the future, though, we took a detour from our commitment of not using one-time funds for ongoing expenditures last June when we adopted our budget and we committed to hire 125 new positions. These positions include social workers, counselors, nurses, school psychologists, and others. We've hired 85 of those positions, and they're now serving students throughout our district. When our Board of Education voted for that, and I remember this, they made clear that I needed to work toward keeping every one of those employees before our COVID one-time funds expired in 2024. I think about that often because we need to keep these employees in Sac City, and they shouldn't come to work worried about whether we will have to issue any layoff notices when our COVID funds end. Our offer to SETA to end this strike is built on trying to address these long-standing challenges that countless boards of education and other superintendents didn't manage to address. We've proposed using one-time funds to honor our employees and provide a soft landing to address our unsustainable health benefit costs. We've also offered an ongoing salary increase that balances, again, our long-term fiscal responsibility, and we also seek to remove the County Office of Education's fiscal oversight so that we can operate just as the other 12 districts do in our county. Over the past 5 years, and especially more recently, I've been told that I shouldn't focus on addressing these difficult challenges, just tell myself that we're doing the best we can to advance equity. But I can't, because I can't genuinely argue that we are truly actualizing equity, and certainly not in the long term. I'll end with Sly Park again. Using one-time funds, we're paying for all of our students to attend this rite of passage experience. Let's not have to tell our current fourth graders in 2024 that we will no longer be able to pay for Sly Park when our one-time funds go away, and we all going to go back to fundraising, seeking donations from community-based organizations and businesses and law firms and churches and others to make sure that our neediest families can send their children there. And for our 85 new employees, let's reassure them that there is a path forward to keep them employed once our one-time funds go away in 2024. Striking isn't going to help us keep newly hired counselors and nurses and school psychologists and other teachers, and it won't get us to a place where we can have a budget structure that provides ongoing resources to provide our students with opportunities like Sly Park. These two realities, for me, demonstrate what I believe we could achieve in Sac City. It's like the instrument panel in our cars, with lots of gauges. I believe that we can operate Sac City with a balanced approach where we can address student needs and also adult needs, and that is possible. Thank you.